This is episode number 11 with Brad Cassidy.
So let's go, I follow, wherever you go, 'cause you're...
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of the Invention Show, a podcast about all things invention and reinvention, where entrepreneurs, leaders and experts in their field today share their stories of triumphs and challenges in both life and business. My name is Tacklee, entrepreneur, international property investor, inventor, and the host of this show. Now, today I've got a very, very special guest and with a powerful story to match. Now, someone I'm proud to call my friend and very excited to have him on the show. Brad Cassidy, peak performance coach, property coach, serial entrepreneur, investor, speaker, husband, and father to gorgeous twins. Now, an individual of true inspiration and aspiration, who has reinvented himself multiple times. And it's just fascinating to me, and I'm sure to all of you guys that's listening, of how he brings it all together. So I know in my heart you'll absolutely love him. Someone who walks the talk in helping you be the best you that you can be and to transform your life. Simply mind-changing, life-changing, and business-changing. So without further ado, welcome to the show, Brad, and thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Tack, brother. And man, thank you so much for that beautiful introduction. And I'm very honored and privileged to share that. Not only have I had the honor to coach you one-on-one, and you and your beautiful wife, but also call you a friend as well. So thanks for that. I really appreciate it.
No, thanks, Brad. Thanks. Now, the first thing I like to ask all my guests, for those who are not familiar with yourself, is can you please give us a window into your background, who you are and what was your first job?
Well, you really want to know my first job? I started when I was 14 3/4, whenever the legal age was. And I actually was, I just got a job at a local restaurant, which was a big franchise called Lone Star. I don't know if you've heard of Lone Star, but they seem to have the peanut shells all over the floor, which I had to sweep up. And also they got me line dancing. So, that was my first ever real, introduction to, employment, and started getting, $3 something an hour. But my first, I would say, real sort of job was when I left school as an apprentice electrician.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, can you please explain to our listeners, Brad, what is a peak performance coach as opposed to, a life coach, where a lot of people go, okay, a life coach?
Yeah, that's a great question because here's what my response is, because I think that some people get a little bit caught up in the semantics of terminology, but at the same time, the peak performance or the high performance coaching has become more popular in its terminology, over the last few years. And a lot of the peak performance, people think sports, they think athletes, they think, that type, but it's actually come into the business and personal world. But here's what I will say. Life coaching and performance coaching, high performance coaching, peak performance coaching, there is a lot of similarities, right? And there isn't really a high level overarching board to define this is what a life coach does and this is what a performance coach does. So in all honesty, hand on heart, there isn't any sort of real definitive answer that I can give you. What I do know though, is that a coach's role, whatever you call yourself, life coach, business coach, performance coach, their job is to take a person forward into the future to achieve goals that they want to achieve through asking good quality questions, through offering good strategies, guidance, and perspective. And if a coach can do that, they're doing their job, right? Whatever they call themselves. Now, some people get a coach mixed up with a consultant, because when people say, oh, I want to get a coach, they get a coach and then they say, now tell me, what's the answer? Oh, tell me, do that for me, and that's what a consultant does. And I have a background in consulting as well. And so when people hire me or pay me to do consulting, it's to do the actual work to get the outcome. But a coach is to help ask questions and guide that person through to get them to where they want to go through good quality questions, providing perspective, guidance, and new strategies.
Yeah. Wow. Excellent. Now, I just want to talk about, coaching, specifically, your style of coaching, Brad, and the Kaizen Way. it's made an immense impact to myself and my wife, hoping, and I believe everyone should at least experience it. Can you please share with our listeners, what is the Kaizen Way? What is Kaizen? How did you start it, and your belief in it?
So I founded the Kaizen Way almost 2 years ago, where I went through a bit of a reinvention and rebranding of what I really wanted to do with my life, my skills, my abilities, and where I wanted to take eventually, and leave my legacy. And, the Kaizen Way was actually, from the term Kaizen, which I was introduced to many years ago, probably about 7 years ago, when I was working in corporate, and I was working in a business improvement capacity, which used a lot of principles from, the Japanese whole revolution that came through Plan, Do, Check, Act, which was, very much driven by a man by the name of William Deming. And I researched a lot of their work on how they improve processes, how do they improve efficiencies, productivity, effectiveness in organizations, how do they streamline, simplify, align, and perform and get better results. And what I found was Kaizen was a methodology, philosophy, and just a way of being that I was so attracted to because, it just made a lot of sense to me in my life because, I've done a lot of martial arts in my life as well. And I could just see and feel a lot of similarities in the way that they were talking about Kaizen. Now, Kaizen, when you break it up, Kai means change and Zen means good for the better. So when you put them together, and the meaning of Kaizen is always changing for the better, continuous improvement. And so I adopted that in my life, in the way that I conduct myself, in areas of fitness and health and finances and relationships, in the way that I show up, as a son, as a father, as a brother. And so what it basically means is that often people are looking for the magic bullet, the quick win, just win the lotto or take a big step change in their life. But what I have found, Tack, and what I've teach, and being through a lot of my trainings, is that when we focus on just taking that next step, small improvements, they stack up to making the bigger things happen. And it's a consistent daily, of resilience, of effort, of consistency, of application, where you get feedback, and that's how you grow. So that's where Kaizen I didn't invent Kaizen, but I loved the philosophy and what it meant so much that I then created the Kaizen Way, which helps people predominantly in the areas of wealth, performance, connection, growth, and contribution. So I tie those, they're the pillars of the Kaizen Way. And Kaizen Way was born almost 2 years ago now, and I'm very excited about where I'm taking that as well.
100%. Now, through your learnings and and coaching, Brad, I'm sure you've come across a lot of individuals that come up to you and go, and they believe life is challenging. What do you see as the most common reason for people failing or giving up?
The first thing that comes into my mind is, and you've probably heard this all before, a lot of the greats that have come before us, like Jim Rohn, Jim Rohn says, reasons come first, answers come second. Tony Robbins, he says, purpose has power, so the first thing that comes to my mind where I, for myself, have felt in my own life in the past of, I haven't, had the most, straightforward sort of process in life, and things have really, I've a lot of challenges in my life financially, physically as well, many years ago. And I learned a lot of what's going to get me back up when I've fallen down, what's going to push me through when times get tough. And every time I've looked back into those moments of my own life, and then I look at teachings of what other people are sharing, it actually makes sense to me on what is the reason why most people fail. And it's because it's not only that, for me anyway, what I've realized is it's not only that people don't have it's not that people don't have a strong enough reason or purpose. It's just that the reason or purpose isn't big enough and generally not outside of them. So what I mean by that, Tack, is whenever someone has a reason that's just self beneficial, and I and me and what's in it for me, that'll only get you so far, in my experience. But when we have a purpose or a reason that is bigger than us, that provides, whether that's providing for your friends, your family, your loved ones, your community, or the world, whatever that is, when that reason or purpose is larger than you, that gives you the hunger that is required to get back up, to push through the roadblocks, to get over those setbacks. But we need to feel that, not just think it. It's not an intellectual thing. It's a heart thing. And this is where I spend a lot of time working with people, like I work with a lot of all sorts of people from all sorts of walks of life, grown men, strong, big dudes. When I say, we got to get into the heart, brother. And we got to find what really matters to you, and what is it all about, and what can we attach that to, and how can you feel that on a consistent basis? And when you do that, that is what's going to help you face those challenges. Instead of failing and failing and falling and not getting back up, there is no other way. We get back up. And so, I feel like that when we have that hunger to achieve, when that's more than bigger than us, and the purpose is bigger than who we are and what's in it for us, that's always going to push us through. That's always going to move the needle.
Yeah, awesome. Now, I know, and a lot of people do know that, your work ethic is, and ability to serve is simply astonishing. Can you please share with us, your biggest area of improvement and challenge to date? Has it been all rainbows and unicorns?
No way. Look, absolutely not. And it's, as you know, I'm very, I'm well known for telling it as it is, telling the truth. When people come to my events, I certainly don't suggest that, hey, you can make $1 million, next week, or hey, you can go and get, six-pack abs in 1 week. I tell the truth because the truth will set you free. And so, and I'm very open and vulnerable with all the things that I've done, the things that I've stuffed up in life, and what I've learned from that. Now, the biggest challenges for me that I've found that have really reinvented me and shaped me to the man that you see today have been part of my most darkest moments. And when we can reframe them and take the lessons and provide a different meaning onto what that situation is, we can grow from that and we can learn from that. Now, some of the biggest challenges for me was when I was I went off the rails quite big when I finished high school, and I was, doing my apprenticeship as an electrician. And then towards that, I got caught up with the wrong crowd, and I just completely went off the rails and abused myself chemically, which led to an abuse emotionally, mentally, physically, and I ruined relationships around me, my health. Put a lot of pressure on and unnecessary stress on my closest relationships around me. And there came a point where it was becoming way too much for me to want to even face the real world reality. So I was constantly abusing myself. And a really big lesson that I got out of that was actually, it was funny how the lesson came, but what happened was I'll say this, but whatever belief structure you believe in, that's completely up to you. And whoever your listeners are believe, I'm not trying to push any belief on you. So please feel me when I say that. But I had a very spiritual moment where this is where my first ever experience of visualization happened, but it wasn't for the positive, it was for the negative. And I was showing my life future paced out continuing on the path that I was on. And it was a very short life. And it was a very vivid vision that was in just one moment, just flashed before my eyes and given to me, I believe, from my creator. And that vision, when I felt it, that's why I'm so big on vision and creating the future self, not from the memory of the past, but defining yourself for who you're going to be in the future, not from a memory of the past. And that is a very important point, because that has a massive impact on how we feel, right? And a lot of other things, from a quantum physics and attraction point of view. But when I had that vision of my life, what it was going to be like from a negative sense, I saw what that impact on my family, on my mum, on my grandma, who was a huge influence in my life. And they were at my funeral burying me.
That must be scary.
Shifted a lot of things. Well, Tack, it was probably what I needed to see, because that changed everything for me. So that moment of that sort of seeing it and feeling what it would be like dying and leaving my family and not being able to really do much with my life, flicked the switch for me. And I was able to reinvent my whole identity and trajectory of my life from that one moment. That's why I'm so passionate about how important it is to visualize but emotionalize the things that you want. Because when I had that experience, Tack, I had a huge shift. So that was a huge lesson that I learned. And the other one, just quickly, I'll share with you that I think will be very important for the listeners, because that whole shift for me started to move me to really wanting to create wealth, to create finance, to do all these things, right? So I went super crazy and super hard. And I felt a little bit like I needed to repay debts of not financial debts, but debts of like what I put my parents through. And I said, right, I'm going to make sure that I create all this wealth and, make sure that I repay because of what I put my family through. And so, and so I went on this crazy, huge, like full on buying properties, starting businesses. And I, to the point, Tack, where I got my second biggest lesson of my life, where I had to reinvent myself again, where I basically lost most of my portfolio. My property portfolio was left with, around $180,000 in debt after I'd paid off what I could. And more importantly, though, what's important to understand is that I lost my health and I ended up in hospital, the breakdown. I basically collapsed. So it hasn't all been sunshine, rainbows, Skittles and lollipops. I've had a lot of real world lessons to teach me things that really matter. And what matters, Tack, from that lesson is that doesn't matter how much money you got. I don't care how many zeros you got in your bank account. If you don't have your health, if you don't have good mental health, emotional health, physical health, what is it all for? What is it all for? And so when I got out of hospital and I saw my mum, she was in tears, not understanding what was going on with me, because, there was just like, why are you trying so hard? Why are you, the lesson of health is the most wealth that you can have. And if that's not taken care of, then what else? So that's, to me, that was a big lesson. So I became very passionate about health and fitness, and I really, and I teach that into, a lot of people come to me for property and wealth building, right? And they want to learn how to build portfolios and grow wealth, which is great. And I teach that, but not without all of these lessons of how important your health is and your mindset, and all of that goes with it. Because if you're going to sacrifice everything just to build wealth, you're doing it the wrong way. You cannot do it sacrificing your health or ruining relationships. I've been there, I've done that, and there is another way. There's another way.
Yeah. And just for our listeners, extra info about Brad, he is an international champion in natural what was it called, Brad? Natural fitness modeling champion?
Yeah.
Number 1. So there you go.
Yes. Basically people say to me, what, you just walk out and you're swimming, you jocks and you just do this? Yes. That was a natural fitness model.
Yep.
Yeah. So
there you go. So he knows what he's talking about, listeners. Now that sort of leads me into, which you sort of touched on, turning points in your life, point or points, you know, when you look back at everything that you have, everything that you have done. I guess, you know, when you went through that, you know, when you mentioned just now with the abusing yourself chemically and, you know, physically sometimes, is it more of a collection of moments for you, or is that the one point where you can go, yep, that was the point, a big turning point that triggered the whole reinvention?
I feel in my life it has been those trigger points that have really been the catalyst for a reinvention. And then, like, to continue on that journey, there have been like many little collective ones that keep guiding me on the way. But what's really, let's call it like reset or reinvented myself, were those big moments in my life where I got to learn some really hard lessons, but great lessons. And I'm so grateful for them. I don't have any, I share this openly. I don't, have any, what's the right word? Regret on, or shame in sharing that. I don't have any shame in sharing that because, Tack, I also do youth charity work and I coach young men and women, and my experiences that I've had through the things that I did to myself. And, you know, there's a lot of challenges with the youth of today. You know, we weren't young. We weren't 18 years old, 16 years old. You know, when people, now I'm a parent, right? And so are you, Tack. And whenever I hear someone saying, you know, when I was 13 or when I was 15, we never did that sort of stuff. And I'm like, hold on a second. You were never 15 when they were 15.
That's right.
Because when we were 13, 14, there was not even an internet around. Like, the world is completely changed and we need to get into their model of the world, understand. And so I can relate. I can appreciate with all the things that I've done. And so I use it for the better now. So I don't, and I share that story with them too. You know, I'm not shameful about it because I use it to help. To answer your question, the reinventions, like the turning points, have come from big moments. And there was probably one that I would share the one that my grandma was a really big impact on me. Now I've spent, you know, I don't know, lots of money, over $500,000 worth on coaching, mentors, training. I've worked with the biggest names, you know, and it's really funny that sometimes your biggest influence on teaching you something isn't anyone famous, isn't anyone, you know, like my grandma, right? Yeah. And my grandma was, I was, you know, very, very close to my grandma, and she taught me a lot that has is with me today, that I share, that everything comes through me when I'm giving everything that I've got, when I just do that extra bit all the time, and I have a high standard of how I do my trainings and coaching, and always striving to serve more, give more, love more. It's been a big impression from her, because a turning point for me there with coming from here a lot was when she was like slowly deteriorating and dying. And I was lucky because she lived very close to me at the time. I was living in where my family's from Townsville, North Queensland, and she was in nursing home, and I could go there, and I usually went there every weekend or every Friday. And what I experienced then, and I was only young still, but I sort of was starting to reinvent, get myself back on track. what I experienced going to a nursing home every weekend was seeing people, and I know this does not sound very positive right now, but this is the truth, is seeing people die.
Yeah.
I would have my grandma's neighbors. So she would be in a nursing home and there'd be Joe Smith, Mary Smith or whatever on the door. And I would get to know them. I would speak to them. And next weekend, name's gone. A couple of weeks ago, again, name's gone, different name up. It's like, what happened to Mary? Well, she passed away. And what that did, and I had conversations with my grandma, and she didn't know she was impacting me the way she has. If she knew today what she had no idea that she was actually teaching me things. So there was a part of, I don't know if you've ever heard of this before, Tack, but there's a motivation. There's nothing more of a powerful motivation than mortality motivation, which means that we are going to die at some point. Yeah. And it's not a subject that people like to talk about, but we have an average of around 4,000, whatever it is, 300 weeks to live. Most of us, maybe some of your listeners listening, there's probably already done half of them. Yeah. So to me, it was like, I cannot waste any more that motivation. But my grandma was teaching me about compassion, about love, about kindness, about coming from the heart without even giving me those lessons. She was through her storytelling. She told story after story. And so that to me was this big turning point of why it's so important to always come from here first.
Yeah, no, thanks for sharing that, Brad. Much appreciated. Now we're sort of, just trying to change tact a little bit. Now everyone has their, definition of success. What does success mean to you, and how do you define it?
Success. What does success mean to me? Success is waking up every day and being able to feel gratitude for the things that you have today, right now, that we may take for granted. And that sometimes that takes a conscious effort to do that. And so success is, because we're, a lot of people probably would have expected me to say, well, success is having this much money and, being able to achieve every goal that you set and all those sort of things. And for me, my definition of success is being able to have a fulfilling life, no matter what cards are dealt with you. And I know, there's some real big challenging times right now. And, there's a lot of things that are out of a lot of people's control. Yeah. And as soon as we focus on the things that we don't have or can't control, that causes a lot of pain and it causes a lot of suffering. But when we focus on and consciously direct our focus on things that we already have, it might have been once a dream. The things in your life right now could have once been just this far-fetched dream. And then what happens when people get it, they're on to the next thing. So success means waking up with a sense of gratitude and a sense of purpose, and then going to bed at night with a sense of accomplishment. If you can do that, you have nailed it. And I don't care what people's goals are and everyone's got a different goal. Some people come to me and say, man, I just want the Lamborghini, Aventador, which is like $1 million, and that's my goal. And that's okay. No judgment, man. Everyone's different. There's no right, there's no wrong. But what I feel is that what I feel is the right way is making sure that whatever it is for you and that individual, whatever that individual wants, that they feel like they have a sense of purpose, gratitude, but then they're doing things every day, every week, every month, every quarter, every year to head towards, to feel that sense of accomplishment.
No, very well said. Very well said. Now, in interesting times like this, Brad, what will your advice or message for our listeners be? We have an audience from over 90 countries. And some places are going through, like a second wave and lockdown. So in general, people are still at home, and there's a lot of so-called free time. It's unfortunate, but there's definitely a lot of fear and uncertainty in the air at the moment. So what would you say is the most important thing people can do right now so they can more or less, come out firing?
Great question. And before I answer that, Tack, let me just say congratulations to you, buddy, on you've got people over 90 countries. Listen to this, man. Well done, brother. Much respect.
Thanks,
that's amazing. You should be proud of yourself, man. Now, actually, it's very timely, Tack, that you asked this, because just before we got on this this call, I did a live to my group, my community that I serve, and I've been doing this a lot with I also coach people one-on-one, and I've been, there's a lot of this coming up for me right now with my clients that what's really important to be doing right now with all of these uncertain times and challenging times and, lockdowns and, job insecurities and all sorts of things that are happening, it is more important than ever today, right now, to be doubling down on your self-care practices. So if you ask me, what is one thing that I would suggest to your viewers to be doing to prepare themselves to come out the other side stronger, faster, ready, to take on whatever it is, it's to make sure that you nurture yourself through this period. But I'm not saying just I'm saying double down on it, increase it, because the amount of self-care that people require right now, in like a generalization, right, around the world, is huge. So I don't know what that is for people, and you've got to work, it's different for everyone. And I know there's some limitations to that with lockdowns and restrictions and those sort of things, but doing things that make your heart sing, that make you feel that gratitude, that make you feel that fun and joy, right? Again, and enthusiasm about life. And so because it's so negative out there, and there's so much challenges, and there's so much, there's so many tough times, it's important to reset and reboot your system. And when I say self-care, I'm talking about things that physiologically will also affect you psychologically. So looking at, are you eating well? What are you putting into your body? Like, are you drinking enough water? Are you sleeping well? Right? Those are basic things. And that's making sure we're doing that, but also then, what you're doing for fun and enjoyment, or doing what you can with the restrictions that people are in to get out and about and get fresh air. Double down on that right now, because it's going to serve you in all realms, mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, when we have a deepen our self-care practices right now. So that's what I would say to all your listeners.
Oh, awesome. 100%. So Brad, out of interest, out of curiosity, what makes you feel inspired or like your best self? How do you be the best that you can be?
What inspires me to be the best me that I can be, apart from what I shared with you already about my experiences with making sure that I show up with love, like from my grandma and all the different things that happened to me, what inspires me to keep doing what I'm doing is knowing that I know that I can help, and I know that I can make a big difference to people's lives. I know that from the feedback that I get, from the trainings that I get, and that is bigger than me. That purpose, that drive, that reason, like I was sharing with you right at the start, that's not about what am I going to get out of this? What is, what is in it for me? And so to me, that inspires me and gives me that inspiration to get into flow, to get in touch with my higher self's calling, because to me that's what it is. Do you know what where the word inspiration comes from?
No.
When you break it up, it's in spirit, right? So it's when you are in that, it's energy. It's when you have that, like that presence, and you're there, and nothing else matters than what you're doing right then and there. So when you are in your spirit, which means that you're following your true calling and your purpose, and when that is larger than you, there is no outside motivation that you need. It's all in spirit. It's all inspired from within. That's the difference. And so to me, Tack, what inspires me to be the best version of me is knowing that people need me on my A game.
Yeah.
And I know that people are relying on me outside of me, my family, my wife, my kids, my mum and my dad. Now, they might not know that, or they don't know that I put that social obligation onto myself. But when we have those mandates put on ourselves that people need me to show up today, man. Like, I've got people's lives that I'm nurturing, I'm nourishing, that I care about, whether that's in my family, my friends, or the community that I serve. That inspires me, because I know that without me stepping up and showing up and being the best version of me, and let's be honest, like, I'm not doing that. I'm not perfect, right? That's for sure. You ask my wife, she'll tell you. It's not about being perfect, right? It's about being purposeful. And what I do is that I know when I'm off my game, and I know that when I'm not being my best, and I know that, and I'm aware of that, and I'll switch it up, and I'll do what I can to get back there, because we all slip up. We don't all go through life and it's all sunshine. We're all having the best day and we're smashing goals. Man, we have days where we're just going, are you kidding me, man? You know, like, holy moly, this is going on and that's going on.
Tell me about it. Yeah.
Yes. Like, you appreciate what I'm saying, right? You just go, and that's okay too. We're allowed, I'm not saying here to always be, happy, and it's always about, like, some days you're going to get pissed off. You're going to get frustrated. You're going to get upset. It's just not living in that state. And the way that we switch out of it is having that, what is this all about? That thing bigger than us that helps us switch back out. And I always ask myself the question, who needs me right now that I care about? And that's where coaching comes in, right? Yeah. And I've got coaches in in a lot of areas of my life, right? And questions. That's what coaching is. And when a coach asks me a question of like, so Brad, tell me right now, who in your life that you deeply care about right now really needs you on your A game? And I just go, holy moly. Okay. Yeah. And I start to think about that, and I start to then get back in the game. Get back. All right, man, come on, let's go. And I coach myself to really start to then go, right, man, let's do this. And I know that sounds a little bit funny where you're going, what's going on, man? But we do have a voice.
Yes.
We do have a voice. And that's so, So to me, that inspiration comes back through me when I reconnect to what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, and who is it for.
Sure. No, excellent. Now, I just want to quickly touch on the notion of the golden handcuff, which a lot of people are in. So I just want to, just out of interest and out of curiosity, you could call it, what is your take on people who are in that situation, staying in the job that, they might not be 100% passionate about, but as a security blanket, compared to pursuing their passion 100%?
That's a big question. One that I have lots of experience in personally. So Golden Handcuffs absolutely is real, and I was going and climbing that corporate ladder, getting higher and higher paychecks. I worked for a major global resource company where there's so much opportunity, and they basically every time I got, given an opportunity to move up and they, asked me to do this role or that role, I would say, yep, absolutely, because that's what I thought was the right thing to do. But the more that I moved up and got promoted and got roles, the more that I was basically owned. And that's where the golden handcuffs come from. It's like you're tied and you've just got to deliver, and, you're working 7 days a week around the clock, but you're on these, high paying roles. So I've experienced that firsthand, Tack, and it's very difficult. I'm not going to, beat around the bush. It's very difficult when you're used to a consistent, regular paycheck. I won't say secure. Okay. I won't say secure.
That's true. Yeah.
A consistent and regular paycheck. Okay. Because the false mindset out there is that I'm in a job, I'm getting paid every week at that security, but it is far from the truth. Okay. It's far from the truth, because yes, within reason, there are some roles maybe that, depending on the field you're in, but when you are at the effect of how well that business is performing, how well that manager is delivering, how well that director is guiding, you just never know what can happen. Businesses, as come and go. Man, like, there's so many businesses that have been shut through
Especially
things that are unpredictable. Yeah. It's just, so here's how I would deal with it. Okay. I actually firmly believe that if you're passionate about something and you want to do it, that you do not jump straight off into that and leave your job. I actually believe that you do not. Why? Because I did that once. And if you don't have a good financial income that's set up to support, not only, yourself or your family or your future that you want to do, then that can be very stressful and lead to you being, getting sick. And because you're always, oh my God, where's the next dollar coming from? Now, there's a fine line, because as an entrepreneur, and as you know, you do have to have faith, and you got to take risks, and but I think it's about taking calculated risks. So here's what I would do. If you're working the golden handcuffs, and this is what I did, I started to look at, okay, so I need to plan an exit, right? I need to have a strategy in place. It might take 2 years. That's okay. But I'm going to work to it. I need to have this in place. I need to do that. And then I need to do this. I need to make sure, whatever that might be, whether it's making sure that you get loans approved or refinancing and having equity drawn out or getting your business to a certain, but you've got to have a look at the risk versus reward and the opportunity costs, because if you're going to dive off into the deep end, that's okay. But you make sure you have buffers, big buffers in place to give you that opportunity to get that thing up and running, right? Because if you don't, and you're living just on the edge, it's not going to help your psychology, right? So I think that for people who are at that golden handcuff stage that aren't enjoying it, and if they are enjoying it and that's okay, then there's no problem. Everyone's different. That's fine, right? Yeah. But if people who are listening that want to reinvent themselves and want to follow a passion that's not their job, then slowly start working towards that. Get a plan in place to do a transition, right? So you can start to go, right, I want to start, and then do a side hustle and get it up and running, get it to a certain point. Have enough things in place, put buffers in place. Right now, I've got this in place. Now I'm all in, and I'm going to give myself, I've got a year's worth of everything covered. And I'm going to go hard in this year, full time. Now I've got this, and and you can always, go back, and you can always, have a fallback position if it doesn't work. But now I always say this to a lot of people. I think that it's important to, I know a lot of other motivational speakers and people out there, they say things like, just go all in, follow your passion and do it. But I've just experienced a little bit of a different scenario in my life where I did that and I nearly lost. It was it was just a very bad decision for me because I didn't think through. I didn't have an exit plan. So have an exit strategy, have a transition plan, start working towards it, monitor it, review it. And then once you're comfortable into your own risk appetite that you've got, whatever that is for you, could be 3 months worth of bills, 6 months, 9 months, 1 year. When you've got that covered and you got this to a certain point, then go all in and go hard on pushing that forward.
No, great insights, and fantastic shares. So what's exciting for Brad Cassidy, at the moment? What are you doing to position yourself, for the so-called new normal?
Look, Tack, in all honesty, what's exciting for me right now is parenting. I know that's not a sexy, entrepreneurial channel here right now, but there's a lot of overlap into entrepreneurialism, running a business, and being a parent, right? But I am really loving, spending time with my twins. I've got twins. I've got 4-year-old twins. And I've just, that's exciting for me because I have an opportunity to help sort of, instill good values and mindset and, even little things like, when it's sort of entrepreneurial and business related, but when they're starting to get pocket money, right? I teach them the lesson of not exchanging time for money.
Oh, that's
because
fantastic.
that's an employee mindset, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. But I'm teaching them about what value are you adding to the household, and that value has a monetary value. So I'm starting to teach them about adding value rather than how much time did it take to get that job done and I'll pay you per hour. But I'm paying them by value. So just things like that. Like I'm giving an opportunity
that's awesome.
Set up these little things. But if you ask me from a business context and what's exciting for me, I'm very excited. I've gone through, a fair bit of rebranding and getting some more systems in place. I've used this opportunity to really embed some more systems, business systems. And I am pivoting to go digital more. So I've got my first online live virtual event in 3 weeks, 3 weekends,
awesome.
From last weekend. So I'm excited about that. So, moving forward, I'm going to do a combination of virtual or digital online. I think the word virtual is probably going to be just non-existent soon, because there's so many people, virtual event. Well, it's a live event online,
that's true. That's true. Yeah.
And so I think that terminology will, but anyway, it's made me look at my whole business model. I do love live events. I love the physical. I love, as you know,
love the live events. Yep.
And but I have used this opportunity to go, you know what, I'm pivoting. I'm going to be doing what I can now online, but when things go back and we have the ability to come back to live events, I'm still going to be doing online. And some will be physical, but my whole sort of vision of where I'm taking my trainings, my coachings, I'm actually probably going to be looking at a 50-50, where it was always 100% of physical live events, but now even when it all blows over, I'll be looking at a model where I'm doing 50-50, so sort of online and live.
Awesome. So what is your legacy, Brad? If you could have a billboard, with anything on it, what would it be and why?
I had a billboard. Well, okay. So I think that my legacy is what I really feel in my heart and what I set out to achieve, and my overarching intention of what I do is to shine the light so others can shine their light. Okay.
Wow,
so when I'm coaching and I'm training, I'm actually thinking about the ripple effect of what change that person, like yourself, Tack, that person can make in the world to their families. So if it was sort of to boil down into one sort of overarching intention, it's service. And when I serve my family, my kids, my wife, my community, people I coach, in the back of my mind, my legacy, I'm thinking that if all that does is allow that person to then serve their family, their friends, their community, their loved ones, that's my legacy.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Now, just a couple of fun questions, Brad. They've
all been fun, Tack.
Yeah. A bit more lighthearted-ish. Now, with cabin fever, that's building around the world, where will your next holiday destination be?
I just went on a holiday actually, which was really nice, but in Queensland, which is a state in Australia, and went to Moreton Island, beautiful place by the way, and took the kids there fishing, camping. But my next destination with the kids, I would say from it's like overseas point of view. It's going to be a toss-up between, well, it depends on what comes first and what's open and stuff, because I've got
That's true.
Geez, my wife might actually watch this, but better be a bit careful here. But I plan on taking, I've got a plan to go to Maldives.
Awesome.
Or, with my wife, Michelle, just the two of us as a destination. Or if it's, depending, like with the kids and stuff, what you've done, Tack, Disneyland.
Oh, yes, love it.
Yeah. And you guys had a great, I remember you were over there and, so we definitely had that, but it depends when things open up, when it opens up. But
that's true.
If you'd ask me what's on the horizon at some point, at some time, with the kids, we want to do the Disney thing.
Awesome. So, when you're traveling with your twins, Brad, what would you say has been your biggest challenge there? Is it comparable to your challenges in life and business?
It's not comparable. But I would say the biggest challenges.
Chocolate.
When I'm traveling. What was that? Sorry.
Chocolate.
Me eating all the. This is funny when you're a parent, man. You get all the leftovers, right? So you're okay. I'll have to eat that leftover chocolate and ice cream. Anyway, I think the biggest challenge with traveling with family, with kids, I would say, Tack, has to be. In advance, before we travel, we always like to see, okay, what is the resorts, facilities? What do they offer? What can we do around the area? That's why I'm so attracted to Disney. It's all done. It's all like, you just get there and you have fun.
Yep.
And one of the biggest challenges is to really make sure where I'm trying to balance, like, okay, making sure that we have fun. Michelle, myself and the kids and the resort we stay at, has good facilities because the kids, at the moment anyway, they love the slides and the swimming and the stuff like that. So it's just been a trying to make sure that when we go somewhere, it sort of ticks all the boxes. And because I love training and there has to be a gym close by and,
Understand.
And then there's tag team of, Michelle gets to go and do her training and I'll look after kids and then so it's just a juggling act, and it sort of sometimes feels not so much like a holiday when you've got the kids and you're trying to make sure they're happy and they get upset, they get cranky, they don't have the right chip on their plate.
That's true.
Like,
that's true.
Come on. But there's a lot of there's very testing, and so sometimes it feels not so much like a holiday, but that all comes part of the parcel. And you just do the best you can. And I always try to reframe and reorient any conversational situation to the future of us having a good time and the fun. So I always try to sort of guide it that way as best as I can. Again,
awesome.
If anyone's listening to this,
Awesome. Now, fantastic. Now, we have to work towards wrapping up, Brad, and I'm super mindful of your time. Always great to chat and grateful for your honesty, transparency, and willingness to openly share. I mean, you're always someone who wears your heart, on your sleeve, and for that, it's very much appreciated. Just got 2 last questions.
Okay.
First is, where can people find out more about yourself and the Kaizen Way?
Yeah, so the simplest way is to go to www.bradcassidy.com.au. That'll be the easiest way, because then from there, there's a lot of things on there that you can see.
Awesome. I'll put some links at the end. And secondly, what parting words of wisdom would you like to share for anyone watching or listening?
So what's coming up for me right now is for people to hear that, life is short, okay? And it's not about, for me, what I would want your listeners to take away from this is that to really try their best to focus on the things that they already have, even though they might want to have all these things, and live in that space of gratitude as much as they can, because living from that space of gratitude, is just such a better way of living. And I know times can get tough, and I know it's not that easy all the time, and things can happen, but always remember to things that you want to accomplish in life or want to achieve, just take it step by step, the continuous improvement way, the Kaizen way, and doing things the best you can to show up the best you can, and just never give up, and never, ever give up. That's what I would say is never give up.
Yeah. Awesome. Take note, listeners. So incredible wisdom, knowledge, and learnings. Thanks again, Brad. Truly appreciate your time.
Welcome.
Stay well, stay safe, and take care, my friend.
Thank you. Take care, man.
Awesome.
Cheers.
All right, guys. I hope you've enjoyed this interview. You can find me at turn-x.com and also on social media at iam.tacklee. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode. If you're enjoying this podcast, please do make sure you subscribe and take a minute to leave us a review. Thank you.
YOLO, YOLO.